Well, President Trump made a promise to release the JFK files. He's kept that promise. Now everybody is combing through 80,000 documents. We're learning interesting information, but I want to go through that and other big news stories. To help me go through that, I have journalist Maureen Callahan from the Daily Mail to help me do that. Maureen, thank you so much for joining me again.
Thanks for having me back, Stephen.
So, you're a journalist, a writer. You've actually written a book on the Kennedys and their insatiable desire for women and the destruction of women. I want to talk about that in a minute. But as you've studied the, John F. Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy, Trump has now released these JFK files. I know it's only been like a day, but anything that you've seen that kind of jumped out at you or maybe caught you off guard?
Stephen, the thing that has jumped out at me is the utter lack of meat on this bone. We're all still combing through these 80,000 pages of documents, which, by the way, it is the mother of all document dumps. They just threw it out there. It's like a regurgitation. These documents are not categorized. They're not prioritized. We don't see things like witness statements, transcripts, interview with person X, person Y. Many of these documents are unreadable. It's sort of a way of redacting without redacting. Some of them the type is so faded as to be illegible, and you can't tell me that AI can't correct for this. You just can't. And it seems like a massive screw you to the American people from the intelligence agencies, these faceless, nameless bureaucrats who for decades have told us that we do not have a right to know what they do about this assassination. It's wild.
Yeah, I've been reading today that this was definitely the CIA, but then there's not really one person, so it's kind of vague. It's almost like they would rather the conspiracy and the mystery than to admit, an American president was killed. I don't know. The whole thing has been really strange. I agree with you. I'm looking at it. There's been a few things that jumped out at me, like, okay, what's this whole, you can release this, but make sure that anything about Israel is redacted. There's been this strange thing about a CIA agent who said it was my agency, and then 6 months later he's unalived in his apartment. So I don't know. I think it's going to take some time to dig in, but from everything that I've read, Kennedy had made a lot of enemies. And so again, I don't know who to point the finger at. I've read about the mob. I've read about, the CIA. I don't know. I hope that somebody will dig through all those, maybe use AI. Who knows? Maybe we need to just load everything into AI and then say, in a 500-word summary, give me the fifth grade edition of who did it. I don't know.
It's so funny, Stephen. So I just finished up a column on this document dump. And if you go back even just to what happened in the minutes following the shooting, the autopsy was botched and rushed. The Navy pathologist who oversaw the autopsy of John F. Kennedy went home the next night and took all of his reports and burned them in his fireplace. The FBI found a handwritten note that Lee Harvey Oswald left for them in Dallas. What did they do with it? They shredded it and they threw it down the toilet. This was the assassination of a sitting U.S. president on U.S. soil. You would think that any investigation would be meticulous, that heads would roll, but not so. And I do think, let's say your theory, it was the mob. Sam Giancana ordered the hit. Who among the American public would be scandalized by that? We might be scandalized that our intelligence agencies missed it, or worse yet, allowed it to happen. But the idea that the mob, who are in the crosshairs of Jack's brother Bobby, who was the head of the Department of Justice at the time, would not shock. So let's say that's the case. Why can't we just know that? Why is this so convoluted 60 plus years later?
Yeah. Well, and even the assassination of his brother, Robert F. Kennedy, a few years later while running for president. And then now you have RFK Jr. saying the guy who went to jail for it, I don't think he did it, So it's like there's just all this mystery around the Kennedys. And I wish we could get to the bottom of it. But then you fast forward, you would think, as you mentioned, that a president is killed. We would want more details. But then, Trump is shot at in Butler, Pennsylvania. We're still waiting on information. And then the FBI burns his body and doesn't tell Congress or it's like, why would you do these weird things that now make the American public immediately turn to conspiracy theory?
Stephen, that's my theory as to why Trump pushed back against these agencies. Remember, in his first term, he said he was going to do it. He was going to order all of the JFK files to be released. And then he walked that back a few weeks later and said, it's not a direct quote, but in sum and substance, it would pose a grave threat to our national security to release these pages. What, I ask you, is the grave threat? Every major player involved in this is probably dead. Geopolitics have shifted over the past 60 years. What could be the grave threat? I think only the knowledge made public that our intelligence agencies were behind it. And I think that what happened to Trump last summer and his own near miss with an assassin's bullet, we still don't know how that guy got there. We don't know anything. As you said, they burned the body. I think that activated him in a way that he had not been before and was not going to be cowed into having that order again walked back by these agencies. Yeah. That's
a good point. A shift in thinking where suddenly he could have been JFK on 4K live TV if it wasn't just for that little turn of the head. Mm-hmm. We have Kash Patel as the new FBI director. I found an old video where he's talking to Glenn Beck at the Blaze, and he tells him, I've read through everything, and once the American people put the pieces together about JFK, they're going to be angry. And then he says, but when they really figure out what happened on 9/11, that's when the American people are really going to be mad. And then he said that he's personally read the missing papers from 9/11. So I don't know how much is just like someone's opinion, how much is still being withheld from us. I don't know. I thought it was very strange that he would couch it that way. Yeah, I don't know what I think of the idea that 9/11 was somehow a huge conspiracy or an inside job. The only thing that we do know for sure is that there were warnings placed on President Bush's desk that Al-Qaeda was determined to strike within the United States in a very brief period of time. Like the window was narrowing, it was closing, it was going to happen very soon. And, that gave rise to the sort of theories that have arisen around Pearl Harbor, that we knew and allowed it to happen as an excuse, a pretext to jump into the war, into World War II. Kennedy, though, is just the weirdest one. And I think it's Occam's razor, right? The only explanation is the simplest one. Why can't we know? The government did it. I don't know what else it could be. And it's so funny. This used to be the province of tinfoil hats and conspiracy kooks. And now it seems like it's just a sort of article of faith that most sane thinking people believe the government is involved in a massive cover-up about Kennedy's assassination. Yeah. Well, we keep thinking, who on earth could be alive that would survive, that it would endanger? But what if it's an agency mm-hmm. or a country, mm-hmm. right? That is still in existence, and that's what they're trying to cover up for. Speaking of cover-ups and trusting your government, I put out a YouTube short earlier today where it's been released that top intelligence in the United Kingdom told Boris Johnson early in 2020 that COVID was a lab leak from an American-funded lab in Wuhan, China. Now we're finding out the the BND or the BDN, I can't remember, the CIA of Germany, they also told their prime minister that this was a lab leak from Wuhan, China. We now know that the FBI, the CIA, so then they went on to be the largest spreaders of disinformation while pointing the finger at all of us that we were the spreaders of disinformation. It's like, it's really hard to trust your government, but then you have Chuck Schumer going on The View saying people need to trust the government. The government has their best intentions at heart. The government can do more than the private sector. I don't know. I personally don't trust the government. As we age, we are all developing aches and pains. Our hair starts to thin. Our skin develops wrinkles and looks less youthful. Even our nails become brittle. I want to tell you about an amazing product that can help prevent some of these things. It's Revive from Bright Core Nutrition. Revive helps strengthen bones and joints. The best thing about Revive is it works from the inside out. It's also going to help you rejuvenate your skin, help you grow back thicker, healthier hair, and strengthen your fingernails. Revive contains 5 types of collagen, hyaluronic acid, biotin, vitamin C. These ingredients work synergistically to make you feel and look better. Plus, it tastes delicious. I especially love the strawberry lemonade Revive, but they have an unflavored that you can mix into coffee or hot chocolate or really any drink that you want. Now, Revive is all natural, non-GMO, and 100% made in the United States of America. Whether it's reducing aches and pains, revitalizing your skin and hair, Revive does it all. Today, I have an exclusive offer for my viewers. Buy 2 bottles of Revive, get 1 bottle absolutely free by clicking the link below. Or, want to save more money? Give my friends at Brightcore a call right now for up to 50% off plus free shipping. I like to save money. I also don't like spending money on shipping. So if it were me, I would give them a call right now at 888-908-4425. You'll love the way you feel and the way that it tastes.
This is yet another reason, again, liberals don't get why Trump was elected. This is why. They don't get why these disruptors he's bringing in, the Elon Musks and the Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s. I am no fan of Bobby Jr., but a disruptor he is. People do not trust what they have been told. They would rather see Bobby with his wacky vax conspiracies than Anthony Fauci, who stood up there with the full force of the United States government and the president behind him and told us how we were to live, which was no way to live, that we had to keep our children out of schools, that we had to stay locked down. We now know that he says, 6 feet apart. We just kind of made that up. We were spitballing. Masks don't really do that much in slowing the spread. So you've stolen lives from people. Or in the case of Andrew Cuomo, who is such, in my opinion, a sociopath, such an empty freaking vessel, that he is running for mayor of New York City. This guy thinks that women were his problem. I would like to disabuse him of it. It is not. His problem is, and we in New York watched this all on real time because we were stuck in our houses with nothing to do but watch television. We watched him order elderly people to be returned to their nursing homes where they were all going to their certain deaths. It felt very eugenics. It was reminiscent of the Holocaust. He made the calculation, the sheer political animal in him, that old people could die and nobody would really care that much. And by the way, we had tents set up in Central Park. We had the USS Comfort, which Donald Trump set, so that we could put the worst of the worst cases in quarantine, but still have a fighting chance to live. So when people wonder how we got where we got today, that's why.
Yeah, when I was covering the news, and I saw like 15,000 elderly people died because of Andrew Cuomo, and then he's given like a $5 million book deal. He's called the best COVID governor of America, and then it just it all starts collapsing on this guy. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a total fraud, a total sham. Like, he was wearing a mask while demanding that we all wear a mask. It's like, and now he's running for mayor. Like, does he think that people are just going to forget what he was like as governor? It's weird to me.
I think he does, because I think he thinks most of us are stupid. And what will we do without Andrew Cuomo in a position of leadership? It really, the balls on this guy, you know, you think he would be thanking his God every day that he's not behind bars. He got to keep the millions of dollars he got from his book deal about leadership and crisis, which I wonder how he found the time to write it while we were in a real crisis. He got to keep $5 million. I think the Television Academy, the Arts and Sciences Academy, I think they rescinded the Emmy, which I'm sure really hurt. But rather than slink away and make some millions of dollars on some board somewhere, you know, I'm very interested to watch this play out. I think it's going to have a very similar trajectory to Anthony Weiner and his rehabilitation attempt in running for mayor of New York. And it blew up again in his face, which, by the way, if you haven't seen the Weiner documentary, it's one of the best documentaries ever made. It is so entertaining and so watchable, and it unfolds like something scripted. It ends with him being chased through the hallways of a McDonald's in downtown New York by the porn star he was sexting. It's amazing.
Oh, what platform is that on?
I think you can stream it anywhere. It's just called Weiner. And it's you also just get the ineffable New Yorkers who see this guy on the street and just roll their eyes and back away.
Okay. All right. I'm going to have to be careful searching Weiner on the internet, but I will find that documentary, and my wife and I will.
Algorithm sending you some suspicious stuff.
Okay. So right now, one of the biggest stories is these federal judges telling the president of the United States, no, you can't let murderers leave America. That's crazy. You have to reinstate USAID. Yes, we know that they're corrupt and fake NGOs and fake climate groups and mostly Democrat money laundering stuff, but there's jobs involved. It's illegal. On and on and on. Your thoughts on the federal judge situation?
It's wild to me. All of this is wild to me, because he's not even in his first 100 days. Okay. We had in Joseph Biden a sitting president who was not compos mentis. Everyone knew it. The entire political class and the media covered it up. And it's not even a scandal. This stuff, a duly elected president doing what he said he was going to do, elected, taking the House, taking the Senate, the country made it very clear what it wants. We want a secure border. We want these felons, these dangerous gang members, Tren de Aragua. We want them out. We want an end to waste, abuse, and fraud. And he's doing it. And instead of the first time around, when he was surrounded by enemies from within who were doing everything they could to block his actions, we now have a far more confident president who knew exactly what was going to happen, who has appointed and gotten everybody he wants around him. And so federal judges are now taking up that activist mantle. I don't think it's going to end well.
Yeah, it's well, and the other thing that's so strange to me is, like, the Democrat leaders in Congress, they're like fighting and preparing to campaign on blocking Trump from removing murderers and gang members that broke into our country out of our country. It's like such a strange hill to die on, such a strange thing to campaign on. I can't wrap my mind around it. Is this why the Democrat Party has the lowest approval rating since inception?
It has to be. I mean, they refuse to. They think they didn't get their message out. The problem is they did get their message out, and nobody likes it. There's this The majority of Americans are recoil from this stuff, and much of the media still doesn't get it either. I think they need, Chuck Schumer on The View. That was an interesting reference you made, because again, it's this gerontocracy that just refuses to go. And people don't feel the way about the government the way Chuck Schumer thinks that they do. And we're right to be skeptical. But when you're a career politician, I suppose you have to convince yourself of it, that everything the government does is good and is in the best interest of its people. It's not so. The open border, the welcome mat that Biden laid out has done incalculable damage to this country. And the pendulum has swung far right to the other way. It will come back to the middle at some point. But what is happening is on them. It's on the Dems. It's not on the right. It's on the Dems.
Yeah. Okay. Going back to your comment about everybody knowing that Biden had his mind gone. You've written several books. I've written a couple. I know just how difficult it is to write a book. Ernest Hemingway said, it's easy. You just sit down and bleed. Like it takes a lot out of you. How on earth did Jake Tapper go from defending Biden and his mental capability week after week after week to now writing a book that his mind was gone and the media covered it up? It's crazy to me.
It's great. First of all, what did he do? Crash this book? Did he write it in 3 months? Because the production time to just publish a book, they publish it about a year after you turn in the final version. It's a very slow moving industry for many reasons. Secondly, this is exactly the problem with so much of the mainstream media. How does this guy still have a job? It can't be one and the other. You can't be on the air defending a president who we all saw well before that debate was not with it. Okay. He could barely walk. He could barely keep his eyes open in the middle of the day. And now you're going to turn around and be the quote unquote truth teller and write what? The Biden administration's version of All the President's Men? I mean, you've got to be kidding me. How can he go out there with a straight face and ask you, me, the average American, to spend their hard-earned money and time on his folly, his vanity project? You've got to be kidding me.
Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, really? That doesn't seem like somebody must have been ghostwriting that for him behind the scenes or something. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, but the other thing during Trump's first administration, everybody who walked through the West Wing exited with a big fat book deal. And everybody couldn't wait to write a book about what they saw in the White House and all the scandal. This is one of the biggest scandals, if not the biggest. Aside from who killed JFK, second is who was running the country, because it wasn't Joe Biden. Who was involved in that conspiracy and cover up? But because it stems, we're not going to get the kind of primetime hearings produced by network executives to look like a movie on regular television every night. We should be having those hearings. We're never going to have them. If I had been in that White House, I'd be out there shopping my book, looking for a big fat payday. You'd get one, you would think. But everybody's got their mouth shut. Why?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. You would absolutely think that they would be leveraging that. Every now and then you'll hear someone say, "Oh yeah, I was in the White House. I was concerned about his age," or I don't know. It's very strange. Okay, speaking of strange, this is another one that I'm trying to wrap my head around. There's a lot of rumors that Barack and Michelle Obama are divorcing. At first, I was like, okay, this is maybe right-wing gossip. That would be strange to have a president go through a former president go through a divorce. Then on her own flailing podcast and as a guest on other podcasts, she does not speak highly of Barack. She seems to want to be away from him. She wants to go to bed early. She seems bitter that he was president. It's very odd to me. What are your thoughts on this rumor of their marriage struggling?
Oh, I think their marriage is completely struggling. I think it has been for a very long time. This is someone who publicly said, I think when she was promoting her last book, which was a bunch of self-help trite garbage, I think she said, oh, there were a good solid 10 years where I hated my husband. I mean, Jesus Christ, that's what she's going to say out in public. I wonder what she sounds like behind closed doors. She will never get over Barack Obama becoming the first Black president of the United States, making her the first Black First Lady of the United States. By the way, during her tenure, the media loved her, made her a superstar. The American people, after they exited the White House, made Michelle Obama a very wealthy woman. She yachts with David Geffen. She has estates all over the country. She has fame. She has fortune. What is the problem? I did a column on this recently because I listened to that first podcast, and oh my God, it's Michelle Obama and her brother Craig. And if these are not two of the most charisma-free people I have ever seen, who are incapable of carrying on an extemporaneous conversation that captivates or at least holds your interest just a little bit. I mean, we had to hear all about like, oh, we lived in a small apartment. We get it. We know the origin story. It's not that interesting. A lot of people grew up without means. But what is interesting is the rage that she still has towards him. And I think the root of Michelle Obama's rage is that she is the grinder. She is the kid who studies hard and gets straight A's, but when you're in class discussing the material, she lacks a single original thought. Barack, everything comes easy to Barack. He's better looking, he's smarter, he's more talented, he's way more charismatic. People, whether they agree or disagree with his politics, if you're in a room with that guy, people love him. She'll never be that. She just doesn't have it. And instead of allowing herself to think, you know what, we actually make a good team because the qualities that I lack, he has, and vice versa. I ground him. I bring practical thought. I make him a little bit more palatable to people who are maybe on the other side of the aisle or totally apolitical. She can't do it. She can't do it. And nobody wants to listen to a wealthy, famous woman gripe and moan all the way to the bank.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, she's complaining at this house and she's complaining at this house and she's mad at this beach house. It's like, how many houses do you have? And yet you keep saying that you're, not able to achieve the American dream. And do you think that there was maybe any part of her? I've seen this with celebrities where they're like, I don't want to be anyone's hero. I don't want to be the person that people look up to. It's like the pressure of it gets to them. I wonder if she felt some of that, where she was like, Barack, I can't believe you put me in this position where now I'm really popular and I'm having to deal with the pressure of being what people want me to be versus being able to be myself.
Well, if she really feels that way, she's done with her public service. She can exit public life. Go. We're sick of you, frankly. I'm sick of her. Her face has become a resting manifestation of her inner mood, which seems to have one gear. I'm unhappy. I'm angry. I'm miserable. And by the way, Stephen, I never bought the Obama's origin story that she had no knowledge of politics, wanted nothing to do with politics, and was taken completely by surprise when her husband, whose ambition you can see from 80 miles away, says, I'm going to run for president. Okay. She wrote in her memoir, which I did the grueling task of reading. Her father was very active in local politics. I believe he was like an alderman in Chicago, and he would take her to a lot of political meetings as a kid. So she knew, everybody knew Obama was going places. And in fact, Michelle Obama was given a very lucrative job. I believe it was largely a no-show job at a Chicago hospital by Barack's moneyed friends in the political class to keep her happy while he went on his way towards the White House. And thirdly, there's at least one biography. I believe it might be Rising Star or Rising Sun. I forget what it's called. It's like the Doorstopper, but there are others as well that remark upon, if I'm correct, Barack Obama's early calculation. He had historically really dated white women. And he made a calculation that if he were going to be the first Black president, he had to marry a Black woman. So this idea that she didn't know what kind of guy she was, I don't buy it. She loves to tell us how smart she is, that she's smarter than Barack. Okay, I don't think so, but whatever. If she's that smart, how did she miss all that?
Yeah. During the political presidential campaign, I covered one of his speeches for my community. And I'm not going to lie, like, I'm a pretty conservative Christian, nuclear family focused guy from Utah. And I was listening to Barack Obama and I'm like, oh, he's a really good speaker. Like, I started getting sucked in. This guy's like hypnotic and so talented with presenting, even if it's not things that I believe in. I just couldn't believe I was like listening to this going, man, this guy is like just really persuasive. He's sucking me in. I forgot that because he's been out of the limelight for so long.
Remember when he almost got undone when he was running the first time around by the Jeremiah Wright stuff? And he turned around and he gave a speech on race to America. And it was almost Lincoln-esque, the way that he was able to use language and his own personal skills as an orator, as a communicator. I don't think since Reagan we've had as smooth a facilitator, with communication as Barack Obama is. No one can beat him. And he saved his own campaign with this lengthy, complicated, nuanced speech on race. He ran at the exact right time. It was Ted Kennedy who told him, because everybody thought Hillary was going to get the nod and going to win, that, often the time chooses you. And if you let this window pass, it might not come around again. And he was right.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I'm grateful that he's out. I'm grateful that Biden is out. And we can move past those things. Okay. Final question. I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me. It's the most fun.
Yes. Kamala Harris has completely dropped out of the public eye. Meanwhile, VP candidate Tim Walz is doing this like multi-state comedy tour, bashing Trump, bashing Elon, telling people to bash Tesla, sell their stock in Tesla. If you need a lift in your day, just watch the Tesla stock sink. I feel like he should be running Minnesota, but that's just me. And then I read that AOC is considered the up-and-coming star and the most popular Democrat. Your thoughts on all of this, and where is the Democrat Party heading?
So the AOC thing is really funny because we've been hearing that since she got elected. We've been hearing that she's the future of the party for 10 years now, 12? And it hasn't happened yet. And there was that recent poll that just came out asking, I believe it was registered Dems, who do you consider to be the leader of your party? Like, I think she got maybe 5%, maybe. So I don't know that this is really happening for her. Tim Walz, again, what an object lesson in a complete lack of self-awareness. He was a laughing stock. He was one half of a ticket that belly flopped. And he's out there, by the way, is this a patriotic thing to be doing? Rooting for the downfall of an American company run by a genius who is remaking the world, who could have gotten those astronauts who just landed back to Earth a lot sooner. But Joe Biden said, no, it's a bad look if we let Elon do it. This is the entire problem with this party. And Kamala, most recently I saw her, there was a picture of her with Doug, who just has a little problem with women slapping them in public, at least once that we know of, at an LA Lakers game. So this is her hometown. First of all, they didn't even get courtside seats. They were seated up. And if you look at the faces of everyone around them, nobody's paying them any attention. Nobody could care less. And she's got the problem of being, from a state that has just suffered an enormous lack of leadership with the LA wildfires. And you've got Gavin Newsom thinking he's going to use those fumes and a new podcast to run in 2028. So it feels like feels like a clown car with the wheels off.
Yeah. I don't get why okay, maybe I do get he's trying to do this podcast so that he can become more popular, but everybody he keeps inviting on are like really popular conservatives. And so I don't know if he's like I'm trying to think of is this like a boxing match where he's trying to set himself up to look good to his own party? But right now, all of the guests he keeps bringing on are just people that are against Gavin Newsom having any kind of countrywide leadership position because of how he's run California. Like he had Steve Bannon on, he had Charlie Kirk on. He did have Tim Walz on, and Tim Walz was like, "Can you believe these stupid conservative podcasters?" And it's like, then I see a report that like there's 5 times as much reach with podcasts with conservative podcasters than there is Democrat, because I'm like, I don't know what you would talk about as a Democrat every single day, every single week. Like at some point you can't keep calling Trump Hitler because he's not even behaving like Hitler.
Yeah. I mean, that side also, they don't promote critical thought. They are utterly humorless and also lack complete self-awareness. I think with Newsom, he's trying, and he's not nearly as slick as he thinks. You know, he walked back recently his stance on biological males in girls and women's sports. That was a huge thing for someone like a huge progressive like Gavin Newsom to do. I think what he's trying to do is make himself a little bit more palatable as a kind of middle of the road guy. You know, he could always posit himself as like fiscally conservative, kind of a hawk when it comes to national security, socially liberal, not too socially liberal. And I think it's not going to work because right now the left demands complete and utter orthodoxy to all views that they hold sacrosanct. And on the right, it's just completely different. And I think everyone on the right kind of knows what this guy is doing. And I'm not quite sure why they're participating in it. The Charlie Kirks of the world, they don't need more eyeballs. They're doing just fine. I think we're watching, sort of, he's trying on a different mask, Gavin Newsom. Same hair, different mask.
Same hair, different mask. Yeah. Well, Mel Gibson said if he spent more time on the fires and less on gelling his hair, that maybe the houses wouldn't have burned down. So such a tragedy, such a lack of leadership. I love how Karen Bass has ordered she's ordered an investigation. She's ordered an investigation into why she was allowed to go to Africa while fires were raging in her city. I talk about looking for a scapegoat.
I couldn't believe it. Like I thought, okay, when I saw that footage of her when she deplaned back in California, and you remember that? Like the camera was on her, and the reporter was like, "Do you have anything to say? Why were you not here? Do you have anything to say to your constituents who are suffering?" And she just looked at the ground and was knitting her eyebrows as if she couldn't comprehend what she was being asked, which was extremely simple and to the point. And I thought to myself, I think that this woman might be a functional moron. I really do. And then to get up there and say, you know what I need to do? I need to launch an investigation into myself. Who should lead that? Well, it certainly shouldn't be me, because the person who would best know my thinking and motivations certainly would not be me. So let's appoint somebody. I mean, what are you talking about? And again, the temerity, the lack of utter humility to say, you know what, I screwed up. I did not serve the people who elected me. I fell down on the job. I am going to resign. She'd be booked as a talking head at any of MSNBC, whatever. She'd land on her feet, but she can't do it. Neither can Gavin Newsom. These people are in thrall to their own power. And if people and homes and businesses have to burn to the ground, you crack a few eggs when you're making an omelet, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay. In our final minutes, I want to give another plug to your book. As I've studied the Kennedys, there's good there. There's a lot of bad there. But these were womanizers. They were bringing women into the White House. to get their needs met. I mean, infidelity like crazy. Tell us about your book and what we're going to learn reading it.
Oh, thanks, Stephen. It's called Ask Not, The Kennedys and the Women They Destroyed. There are also the stories of, the woman Ted Kennedy left to die in 3 feet of water, Rosemary Kennedy, the beautiful daughter and sister of JFK, whose father lobotomized her to cover up his likely sexual abuse of her. You meet all these women. The book is written sort of like a novel, but it's all true. And in looking back this morning while going through the Kennedy release, the files that were just released, I thought of Jackie, who you meet about 4 different Jackies in the book. She had like 4 different acts in her life, and she was a different person for each one. But her essential self never really moved, which was a woman of incredible grit, strength, intelligence, and character. And she is in many ways the heroine of the book. And Jack Ruby, who killed the lone gunman, quote unquote, Lee Harvey Oswald, while he was in police custody on live television, said that his motive for doing so was to spare Jackie Kennedy from having to testify at his trial. And I came across that quote again today, and I thought, how laughable. I mean, this is a woman who at 34 got the country through the trauma of the assassination and signaled to the world that America would not only survive this, but we would come back stronger. The idea that she would wither in a courtroom is laughable.
Wow. I didn't know that quote. That's really interesting. Trying to spare her from the testimony. That's
talk about the ultimate. It's like adjacent to mansplaining.
Yeah.
I'm going to take care of this little problem for you, little lady. And that reminds me of another quick thing on Air Force One. After the assassination, when Lyndon Johnson wanted her in a white dress and she refused to change out of it, she knew the iconography she was going to put out for American history. She was called Little Lady on that plane more than once by these men who were literally falling apart. And she was the one who was keeping it together. And I just think Jackie Kennedy is seriously underrated in terms of the way feminists look at her. I just loved her, and I loved writing about her for the book. And from what I've heard, readers really do too.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to put a direct link down below. You can you can also find Maureen's articles over on the Daily Mail. I'll put a link down there as well, and also follow you over on X. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come on the show and help me go through these big stories. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much for having me, Stephen. As always, I thoroughly enjoyed it.